Back in January of 2022, I posted a solo episode of Sim Roulette where I went over my favorite and least favorite first-time watches of each month in 2021. I don't really like that episode, as it is just me rambling on about movies that I'm trying to remember details of, but I still have kept making the list on my Letterboxd. I have one from 2022, 2023, and as of writing, I'm working on 2024's. Also, at time of typing, I don't know what this video is going to be. Maybe it's a still image with me sitting by a fireplace, and this will be like a podcast. Maybe I'll edit in clips of the movies. Maybe this is live action somehow, and you see me reading this part out like a dickhead. Point is, I am doing it again, but this time with a script, so there's less ums and uhs for me to edit out. But either way, welcome to my best and worst first-time watches of each month of 2024. Simple rules, it's one movie per month for each list and must be a first-time watch. Also, spoilers. I'll try to leave time tags in the video so you can jump ahead if I say something you've been meaning to watch. Let's start with...
Fuck you, it's January!
I rewatched a lot in January. Was just in a nostalgic mood, I guess, but I did see good movies. Good movies like They Cloned Tyrone and Hell House LLC, but for my best of the month, it came right at the end, with Godzilla Minus One. Here's the thing, I am not a Godzilla fan. I have disliked or outright hated all the American movies, and my brother, who loves Godzilla, showed me all the so bad it's good movies, which, besides two funny scenes, were very uninteresting. I have seen Shin Godzilla, which I do enjoy. Godzilla Minus One blew me away. It was a heart-wrenching story of post-World War II Japan, and also Godzilla was there. Seriously, not even saying that like a bad thing. If you cut Godzilla from this movie, you'd have a fantastic drama. But with them there, it becomes a fantastic giant monster movie with a strong emotional core. Hell, the movie was actually able to fake a character death, and I fully believed it. And it didn't feel like bullshit when they revealed they weren't dead. Okay, it felt like a little bit of bullshit. I can't honestly tell you the last time that happened for me in a movie. A movie hasn't had a grip on my heart like this since I want to say Your Name. And it's a fucking great monster movie. So yeah, Godzilla Minus One was the best I saw in January. Now for worst, I want to say I watched Cats in January. Cats 2019, the butt of every movie joke for a few months after release. Got made fun of at the Oscars, and you know what? It isn't the worst thing I watched. Honestly, I would sit through Cats again because it is so fascinatingly bad. It is a fever dream, and seriously, get some friends together and watch it. It's a blast. But no. My worst... I watched something worse. My worst movie is Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. I work as an overnight security guard at the moment, and I watched this at night alone in a dark building. I didn't jump once. I've seen fart jokes scarier than any moment in this movie. I would say, mixing RE1 and 2 isn't the worst idea for a movie. But one, if you want to be a faithful adaptation, this movie is going to be long. And two, you are still going to need to rush things. This movie takes almost an hour for all the characters to realize there are zombies. This movie is an hour and 47 minutes. The action sucks. The writing is just bland, and the pacing is like pulling teeth. And before someone comments, I get it. It was post-pandemic, so there was a lot of restrictions on set. They couldn't have hordes of zombies or a lot of close-up fights, but it hurt the movie so much, it would have been better to just not make it. Hell, by the hour mark, I honestly started thinking people were too harsh on the other Resident Evil movies. Like, yeah, they are dumb and Alice is a Mary Sue, but at least the movies were fun, at least stuff was happening. Raccoon City was just bad. Boom, suddenly we jump. Anyway, on to February. I did watch more new to me movies in February. Just most of them were movies from the 1890s that were less than a minute long. But I did watch some feature-length stuff too. Now, as a film nerd, I should say Poor Things was my favorite movie of the month, as I caught it at the tail end of its theatrical run. But no, it was The Beekeeper. Poor Things is a great movie, don't get me wrong, but this is my list, and The Beekeeper is honestly near perfect in my eyes. Let me explain. I love revenge movies. They are my favorite gamble in the action genre. Sometimes you get something bland like Taken or Peppermint. Sometimes you get something actually good like John Wick or Blind Fury. But you can sometimes get my personal favorite, over-the-top bullshit, which The Beekeeper is. The setup to this movie alone sounds like a parody trailer you'd see on The Simpsons. Jason Statham plays ex-secret agent who has befriended a nice old woman. The old woman falls for an online scam. Hey, I see you already with a smug thought that, oh, so she tells him and he gets revenge for her. No. My sweet summer child. That's too normal. Instead, it turns out she also worked for a charity for sick children, and that money is stolen as well. So she shoots herself. My jaw hit the floor here, as that is just darkly hilarious to me. But also Jason kicks the beehive a bit, and is just pissing off the people who were running the scam operation, so they kill his bees. Here we are. We have Jason Statham getting revenge because a sweet old lady and his bees were killed, and he needs to get money back to save the kids. The part that made me love this movie is some Jake Paul looking idiot is in charge of the scammers, and of course, it turns out to be the President of the United States' son. This movie is stupid, but it knows it, and that's what it's going for. It's a blast through and through. The only thing I would wish is honestly for more action scenes. Also, future me recording this, David Ader, the person who directed The Beekeeper, seems to just be making another Jason Statham movie where he plays a retired super cool dude who's gonna help normal family. Awesome. If you want to just make those movies, dude, I will be there. Heh, B. Worst of the month, I don't have much to say on. Me and buddy watched Titanic 666. It's one of the Asylum straight-to-DVD type sci-fi originals. Me and my buddy just wanted to MST3K this bitch. Don't watch it alone, otherwise you'll just be bored. Some may say that this part is pretty low effort compared to the last three. But what do you want? This movie was just quickly made trash, and I watched it. It looked trashy. I technically got what I came for, and I don't know, I'm not really that mad. March! I was mostly dealing with my mental health, so not too much to choose from, but a clear winner with Love Lies Bleeding. Firstly, the two main leads are incredibly sexy. I'm not apologizing for that comment. They are beautiful, and this is supposed to be a sexy thriller, and you know what? It's fucking sexy. The movie as a whole, though, is a fantastic thriller. Once the dominoes start to fall, every scene was tense, and often for a different reason. I was actually on the edge of my seat for most of the movie. The music was fantastic, the effects looked amazing when they were there. The tone could shift from romantic to comedy to dramatic, and it never felt jarring. Also, the third act is just fucking nuts. I know I gave a spoiler warning for all the movies I'm covering, but this is one I don't want to spoil and I really feel you should see, because when things start to go off the rails, they go off the fucking rails. Worst of the month was Puppet Master. Me and friends started to watch the Puppet Master series, and we watched the first two in March. The first I feel was weaker than the second, but it honestly isn't even that bad. It's a low-budget horror flick. Like, seriously, this is another situation where I basically have not much to say. This is just fine. I will predict, as of now, Puppet Master is probably going to take up a lot of these worst spots, so I might give a runner-up as time goes on. And even now, this is something that's going to come up with the worst list more as we go. Not every movie is technically even bad. It's just the weakest movie of the month. Some of these do get very bad, though. It's May now when I'm typing. Oh, let's talk about April. Again, honestly, not many movies this month. Binged a bunch of anime and prepped for a con. Hey, Future Justin here. First day of the con, I got a horrible stomach flu and was not able to go to the rest of it. And infected my friend who came along. It sucked. Yeah, I binged a bunch of anime so I could go to the voice actor panels and not get too lost. But I did watch 3 good movies. Monkey Man was a great revenge film. Also, can I just say, guys, just because it is a revenge movie with good action scenes doesn't mean it is like John Wick. This has the same energy as calling any game that's hard a Souls-like. I also watched Thanksgiving, an Eli Roth movie I was actually able to enjoy, and was just a silly, fun throwback slasher. But my best and probably controversial movie of the month is Malignant. Now, let me just say, I'm a bit tired of horror movies just being about trauma. Like, I enjoy a solid horror movie with deeper themes and being a character study, but sometimes I need a break. And sometimes that break is a throwback to Italian horror and creature features. The movie, especially in the third act, goes nuts and has some amazing practical effects and stunt work. Like, seriously, look up behind the scenes or watch Dead Meat's kill count. It is awesome what they did. And again, this is another one where it's like, you said you would do spoilers, but I don't really want to spoil this one if you haven't seen it. The twist that happens is actually pretty fun in my opinion. I know some people complain it has a tone problem, and I get that, but it wasn't an issue for me. And worst of the month is only one possible first time watch, Puppet Master 3. This movie is just really dull. We learn a bit more about the original Puppet Master and him in Germany during the rise of the Nazis, and honestly, just not much happens. It also doesn't help that there were no subtitles on DVD and everyone is mumbling their lines. I saw some saying this one was one of the better ones, but honestly, the first 2 were better than this. Now that, for me, writing this, it is June. Good words, past Justin. So time to talk about May. For best of the month, I thought it was going to be something pretty simple, a movie called Versus. I was told this movie was Evil Dead crosses Devil May Cry, which, yeah, that movie was sick as hell, and if you love over-the-top stuff, go watch it. But just at the tail end of the month, I went to see I Saw the TV Glow. If another movie hits me this hard, I might need 2 therapists. There is a quote, "Art should comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable," and it is the only thing I can do to describe the movie without getting too into it. If you are queer to some degree, watch this movie. Go as blind as possible. Skip ahead to the worst of the month, seriously. For those who have seen it, or choosing not to care, this movie captures being in the closet and living in the Midwest during the 90s and 2000s fucking perfectly. It's a crushing story about what happens when you try to live a facade or a gender you know deep down isn't you. I mean, the main point of the movie is obviously being trans, but I think anyone who was in the closet, especially in those decades, hell, even now, it relates to them. Like, I'm pretty openly bi now, but I denied it for a long time. I mean, I grew up when gay was an insult and butt of every joke, so yeah, I felt this movie hard. Not to mention the soundtrack is fantastic, and the feel of the Midwest is a bullseye. This will probably end up being my favorite movie of the year, and something I rewatch constantly just to have a good cry. I will write here in the script that I need a break talking about the best of this month because the worst of this month I fucking hated. Personally, I thought this was going to be an easy one. I watched Netflix's newest live-action adaptation of City Hunter. Honestly, it was surprisingly fine. Like, I had a good time, but the ending dragged a bit. I also haven't watched the anime as of writing, so maybe I will dislike it more after. I also watched Existence by David Cronenberg, which in my opinion went too weird and needed some type of anchor in reality to draw me in more. Then I saw Hello Mary Lou, Prom Night 2, and that was a fun but still, in my opinion, rather dull ghost movie. And I thought that would be here. A quick paragraph and then done. But no. See, I work as an overnight security guard. I've already said this, but these paragraphs were written months apart. I apologize. I also make lists tracking deaths in movies. You know, like a normal person. But at work, we are allowed to watch movies, and I decided to watch Army of the Dead. What a waste of time. I'm saying that harshly about a movie I literally put on to kill time. Oh, you just need to turn off your brain and have fun. That was literally the bar I set for the movie. I love movies like that. Again, Versus was going to be my movie of the month before I saw the TV glow. But here's the thing about dumb fun. They usually know what they are and respect your time. Besides some admittedly fun gore and neatish, we'll get to that, kills, the story beats in this drag and are so overly serious that it becomes bland. Also, just to spoil it right out the gate, everyone dies in the end, so who the fuck cares what happened? No lesson was learned, everyone got fucked, world sucks, the end. Oh, and before you say a daughter survived, knowing the military in this movie, she's probably about to be shot in the head. The villain's plot is beyond stupid. All they actually want is the blood from these super zombies to make immortality. So why have the fake heist group? If the head is worth as much as they say it is, why not just go in with Coyote, sacrifice one loser, and take the head? And if you just want a heist movie with zombies, maybe cut out the stupid subplot of wanting a super zombie blood. Also, while you're at it, cut the stupid subplot of saving the one lady who went to steal money to help buy her way out of the quarantine camp. She dies too in the end and no one cares. Maybe if you cut all that out, this movie would be only 90 minutes long. Not to mention, they just waste Vegas here. Like, besides that opening that was just copying Zombieland, and the fact that there is a zombie tiger, Vegas is wasted. And here we get back to kills. Yes, there is good gore and some violent fun is had. But it could have been better. They don't use Vegas to their advantage. Like, slam a zombie into a slot machine, have coins fall out onto them. Impale them with a roulette table. Hell, get your characters on stage of a magician and they use the props to fight zombies. Just do something fun! Just one last thing, because this part is already going on long enough. Half the shots in this movie have this cheap looking post-production shallow shot. I don't know if some production designer just drew dicks on the walls or something that needed to be cut, but I swear every other shot is shallow focus for some reason. So this movie just looks ugly, it's no fun, it's fucking annoying. Anyway, I need to move on. We're moving on. Jump to me in the future. If my audio is different, my door is open because there's a dog in my room, and she's being a cutie. Welcome to July. Let's talk June. I'd like note, I Saw TV Glow is still on my mind. This might have pushed it to be in like my top 10 movies of all time. It honestly hit just that personally for me. If I still did Cinema Roulette, it would have been the Pride Month episode. Now anyway, Best of the Month was very close. Runner-up was actually recommended to me in a Discord group. It was called Blue Giant, an absolutely beautiful anime about jazz. And is one of the first times where I saw a movie talk about how powerful music is and actually feel it from the soundtrack. If it gets a re-release in like IMAX, I will go see it. It's amazing. But my actual favorite of the month is Lisa Frankenstein, which some may not like this movie. That sucks. This is my list. I just found it charming. It would make for a great double feature with Heathers. The jokes made me laugh, the movie is weird but in a fun way, Zelda Williams is showing great strength as a director, and the actors all do a good job. This one isn't as deep and personal as last month. but I can see myself rewatching this decently often, which is basically what pushed it slightly above Blue Giant. Now, for worst of the month, I want to make it clear. I will watch bad movies for a laugh. I've watched a lot of bad action flicks. They are basically a comfort genre for me. I watched movies like Cats while stoned out of my mind, and you know what? It was a fun fever dream. Madam Web is fucking garbage. And look, I'm not here to cry woke. I have zero connection to the comic characters, and I went in with low expectations. But as the meme says, my expectations were low, but holy fuck. Even someone who lightly knows how to edit and pace movies, this hurts to watch. They failed at doing a match cut that even someone with zero editing skills could get right. There are multiple plot threads that just go nowhere. Every character is introduced as an asshole and doesn't arc. They are just suddenly nicer, but the worst part is the theme, because from what I gather, the theme of the fucking movie, the moral is to try. Just try. If you try to help, often you change the outcome. Which, you know, is a great moral for a Barney episode. Maybe not $1 million movie, but you know what? It's fine. Except for one itty bitty teeny weeny detail. The main character is a paramedic! I'm so happy a paramedic learned that if you just put a little bit of effort in, you can save people. And I know, I just went off on a different movie from last month, but these are two different types of bad. Army of the Dead is boring bad. Madam Web is incompetently bad. Like, it isn't hard to find a student film that is better than this $1 million movie. But I'll save us some time, and we'll just jump to next month. And here I am in August, so time to talk about July. Now, for Best Movie of the Month, we have an issue. By now, I have decided that this will be more of a podcast thing. Yeah, you could tell you're halfway in the video. But I can't say the title of this movie because one of the main words on the title would be happily used in the 70s, but not today. I don't want to say it, by the way. I am happy we have moved on from it, but okay. I will put up the poster on screen, then we move on. Yeah, this is just a really fun kung fu movie, and has dubbing that is just bad enough to be fun, but not so bad you don't want to watch it. There isn't much to say. A lot of the good movies I watched this month were just good and nothing deeper. Saw Almost Famous, that was solid. Watched Kill, which I'm pretty sure is the first movie I saw from India, and that was a fun action flick as well. I think I just enjoyed the lighter tone of Avengers a bit more. I will say Puppet Master 4 was surprisingly fun. Anyway, on to the bad. And hey, have you felt these bad sections go on long? Too bad, this is longer. I watched a lot of just not good movies. I will start with least bad and work my way down. So I have a second Letterboxd account. I mentioned this earlier. It keeps tracks of kills in movies. It was hitting its 1000th movie. So I wanted to do something special. Out of recommendation, I watched Grindhouse. Look, I love stupid action. So why are both of these movies so damn dull? Rodriguez, I know you can do better. You did in Machete. Planet Terror, however, takes an hour to get what you came for, which is a chick with a machine gun for her leg killing mutants and soldiers. It's only saved because of those last 20 minutes of great effects. Death Proof is awfully boring. Like, it's a 5 out of 10, but holy shit, Quinn couldn't write female characters to save his life in this movie. Honestly, I wanted to apologize to Rob Zombie at the halfway point with how shit the dialogue got. Porn has better scripts than this, Like, Death Proof is only saved by gore in the last few minutes, but I hated it far more than Planet Terror. And look, I also don't need a movie to be action all the time, but the trailers, which were the best part of the double feature, seem to understand the assignment better with over-the-top plots and constant kills or action. Also, Edgar Wright, make Don't. It would be funny. But even after seeing Death Proof, I knew I watched something worse already in the month. With another 48 hours. And no, that's not me talking about how long I'll talk about bad movies on here. For those who don't know, 48 Hours was the film debut of Eddie Murphy and is a pretty good buddy cop movie. Then there is the sequel, which bores you to tears. Retreads a lot of the first movie, and this time all of Eddie's material feels like it was written by one of those people who go up to YouTubers and say like, "Oh, I got a great idea for a video," and it is the least funny and most obvious jokes you can imagine. The movie just takes forever and is uninteresting. But I thought at least, hey, this is the worst of the month. So anyway, worst of the month is Sin City, A Dame to Kill, or Sin City 2. The one everyone forgot. Now, this was recommended to me in the same group where I got Blue Giant, but this wasn't even close. Look, the first Sin City has issues, but I can look past some of the edges and have a good time. Not the case for 2. Now, instead of competent Frank Miller, we have edgy middle schooler Frank Miller. Or modern Frank Miller, if you will. To quickly summarize, the style in this movie isn't cool, it just feels overused and oddly cheaper. Mainly because it has bright highlights on things that don't matter. Like in the first movie, if something was blindingly white, you were supposed to focus on it. And now it's just like, this random bottle is blindingly white. This chessboard is. It never matters. Not to mention, Frank's bad tendencies of repeating things over and over is here. And not to mention, the stories just feel bland in general. This time the movie is much more sexist and also has a scene that made me actually feel dirty. Trigger warning for talk of assault. If you don't wish to hear that, jump to August. Anyway, the worst scene of the movie is a woman who is trying to trick a cop into killing the main character of that story. She claims the main character raped her, and while describing this to the cop in detail, he gets horny and starts screwing her as she continues to tell him about this fake rape. It's a rather disgusting scene, and I hate every second of it. It's honestly one of the most vile scenes in a movie I've seen in a long fucking time. And if anyone in the comments is like, "Oh, you're just a sissy for not enjoying something so deep and adult," fuck you. It's gross. It's not trying to shed light on anything. It's just to be shocking and gross, and congrats, you succeeded. The same way you would succeed if you rubbed shit all over yourself. Anyway, that wins the worst of the month. Let's hope next month the worst is just something boring for me to quickly summarize and move on. It's September, which means I can talk about August. This month I didn't watch much, and both best and worst will be easy to talk about. Best of August was Boy Kills World. Now, if for some reason you dig through my letterbox, you will probably ask why this movie is about Fall Guy, Dennis Villeneuve's Prisoners, or even Pop Star Never Stop Stopping. And it is very simple. This is my type of comfort movie. I know I've mentioned it a lot. I just love action movies that know it isn't trying to tell some deep story. We are just here for cool, violent fight scenes. The humor might not work for some people, but if you've seen Guns Akimbo and enjoyed that, you will probably dig Boy Kills World. Also, this movie has better and more powerful use of a cheese grater than Evil Dead Rise. But that's really it. I just had fun, and we'll probably add this to the list of movies like Hardcore Henry and Shoot 'Em Up for fun action movies I put on for time to time. Words are hard. For this month, worst is more of just weakest, because I don't actually think this was bad, just I didn't watch anything horrid. It's Deadpool and Wolverine. I make it no secret I am rather tired of modern superhero flicks, but I enjoyed the first 2 Deadpool movies, so I checked this one out. It is a nice send-off love letter to Fox and their Marvel movies. A bit of praise I will give is the movie actually has a solid emotional core, which I felt was missing from Deadpool 2. One complaint I do have about the movie is too much upbeat pop music. Like, they do the joke of unfitting pop music playing during a violent fight scene at least 4 times, and it wasn't funny once to me. It even ruined a pretty solid emotional moment when Deadpool and Wolverine snap at each other. I think the van fight with no music would have had more weight to it, but besides that, the movie was what I expected. Solid jokes most of the time, decent action, the warts of trying to fit this thing into the MCU. It was just fine. Anyway, next month, it's October, let's talk September. I didn't watch much this month, 3 new movies, 3 rewatches, but let's talk about best of the month, Rebel Ridge. From the director of Green Room, Rebel Ridge is a great powder keg thriller. And if you haven't seen the movie, but you saw the trailer, you may be confused by me saying thriller. It was promoted as an action movie, and yes, there are action scenes, but they take a while to really get into it. Luckily, the pacing and tension are really good. Kept me invested till the end, and was all around a nice time. I like to say it's worth a watch and a great critique on how police, especially in small towns, abuse their power. Worst of the month is another movie I got on rec from a Discord group, one I remember hearing about in college, Climax. A French film about a bunch of dancers getting drugged with acid. Which, okay, let me say, in college I remember a lot of people saying this was one of the most disturbing movies they watched, and that's about all I knew. I might just be desensitized because I watched some messed up movies, but this was just boring. You're stuck at a drug party and the only one sober. It's just misery and crying for almost 2 hours, and I will admit, the movie isn't bad, it's just not for me. Like, I looked up other reviews and takes, and some people found it to be an interesting dive into misery. But for me, I was just not invested at all. Also, the fact you don't see what other people are seeing is really disappointing to me, because I love surrealism and would love to see some weird hallucinations. But no, just stuck here watching people cry and be dicks to one another. My plan for October is to catch up on 2024 horror flicks I missed. Also, if you are wondering, the movie in the middle of the 2 I watched was Wild Strawberries, which I don't think I fully understood, but still had a lovely time with. Let's talk to me 4 days before chaos. Wow, I wrote that as a joke, and that turned out to be true. Well, time for October, and trying not to worry about the rest of November. I had every fucking right to be worried. I did watch more this month, but still feels pretty easy to choose. So for my best of the month, I am going to mention a runner-up I feel people will tell me... Okay, so hey, I know I said I wrote everything out here, and in this next part, originally I said Dark Strays was better than The Substance, because the well, I'm gonna make sure I'm saying the right movie title. Sorry, The Shadow Strays. I said The Shadow Strays I enjoyed more than The Substance. I will say later in the month of November, I realized completely fucking wrong. The Substance was my favorite movie of that month. It was such a cool experience. It's wonderfully shot. It's violent. And the thing I love mainly about The Substance is it's a movie where it's not holding your hand, but instead telling you just to keep up. It's like, yeah, guess what? This is a world, this is a heightened reality. This is a more exaggerated reality. Just keep up with us. We're not going to over-explain, like, the rules of this world or whatever. Just keep going, follow along, you'll get through this, kid. And I love that type of movie. I love a movie that just keeps you engaged and actually thinking. Which is funny, because I have had 2 movies already that are just dumb fun action. But seriously, the substance was great. Shadow Strays is also a fantastic action movie on Netflix. It's by the guy who did The Night Comes For Us and Headshot. If you want to see some really violent action, some good practical effects, just a lot of fucking gore and brutality, that's a good movie to watch. One of my favorite kills is someone getting shot in the face with a machine gun, but you actually see like their head get shot apart. It's horribly gory, but it's fantastic to see. Anyway, that saves me a nice paragraph, future Justin. Now for worst, I watched Puppet Master 5, and it was dull, but don't worry, Netflix is back with Trigger Warning. Surprisingly, no, this isn't some has-been comedian special on how those dang kids are too soft and they can't say anything anymore in their $1 million special. Instead, it is a background noise for scrolling through social media. Like seriously, this is the most by-the-numbers action flick I have seen in a while. You could honestly be on your phone half the time and still follow what is going on. It's a PG-13 straight-to-bargain bin action flick, and even then, you will still feel ripped off. Also, I have to ask, why is it shot like a PG-13 action flick? I thought we were past those by now, with John Wick being so popular, and it's streaming. There's no ratings board, so come on, throw some blood in it at least, so I can feel something while watching this, or half watching while I scroll Blue Sky or something. Like seriously, just nothing happens in Trigger Warning. If I actually told you the setup of the movie, if you go and read the description, you can play out the entire movie in your head. So yeah, November wasn't fun, and the next few years won't be fun either. But anyway, let's talk about movies. I watched a handful of new movies, and best is easy, as it shot up to my second favorite movie of the year, Hundreds of Beavers. Now I just want to say, this movie is free on YouTube when I am writing, and it is also on Kanopy, Kanopy. It's a streaming service that you can have for free with just a library card. Support your libraries. Highly recommended, and it is the main way the filmmakers ask to watch the movie, besides buying the Blu-ray. Anyway, this movie is great and probably the best comedy of the year. It is a live-action Looney Tunes cartoon, but in a good way. It's done also like a silent film. I mean, there is still sound and music, but they try to show everything visually, and it just works. The main thing about Hundreds of Beavers is its perfect pacing. Just as a bit feels like it might be overstaying its welcome, something new is added to the joke, or we move to a different section. I also just love that every joke in this movie is a new lesson about the world, and often comes up to solve a different problem. It's just in general a really clever movie and just a great lesson in visual storytelling. Like, the main character is trying to get eggs from a bird's nest, and anytime he sees the eggs, he whistles, which causes a woodpecker to come at him in the head. Well, it lands on his shoulder and then pecks him in the head, he falls off the tree. So later on in the movie, when he needs to set a trap to go get wolves, he whistles, so that way the woodpecker goes and attacks a dummy, which releases the trap so he can escape the wolves. It's stuff like that, and it keeps building and building and building and building, all to one great ending. Worst of the month for me is almost a tie, but one was far blander than the other. Runner-up is a movie called Kill List, which I know has a cult following, no pun intended. But for me, it was just bland. Like, it tries to fill you with dread by not explaining things, which, yeah, the human imagination is often scarier than anything you could show on screen, but wow, I'm bored. Instead of these things being scary, it just had me kind of sitting there asking, but why? It was never able to pull me in to care, and have the atmosphere build. In short, for me, it was the movie Mandy if you sucked all the style and enjoyment out. Anyway, worst of the month goes to Shaft, from the first Shaft remake from 2000. Now, I watched the original Shaft in October, and it was I watched the original Shaft in October, and it was a fun blaxploitation movie. Good action, great soundtrack, and that good independent feel of people doing as much as they could with the little resources they had. For comparison, the 2000 remake has none of those things except the soundtrack, but they just took the soundtrack from the original. I believe Samuel L. Jackson can play a suave, cool motherfucker, but here he is clearly just in for the check. They do try to have a different story from the original, but it is just a by-the-numbers cop story. Yes, they made Shaft after cop instead of a PI. This movie has nothing to say. It's a boring plot and was only ahead of its time by being a heartless remake that tried using star power to justify its existence. That's all I have to say. This isn't one I can be super mad at. It was just painfully bland. We are now in the home stretch, so hopefully see you in January, which I am a good being. As of writing, not while recording, I am sitting sick at work on New Year's Eve. And honestly, didn't watch anything too impressive in December. Like, I watched Carry On, which was fun, very 2000s thriller. I started a challenge from someone on Blue Sky called The Century of Cinema. Simply watch one movie from each year from 1925 to 2025. And saw Rope for the first time, which was good, solid thriller, but since I know the rules of Hays Code, the ending feels predictable. My favorite first time watch of December I will give to a rather divisive movie, Longlegs. I honestly thought it was good, solidly scary, and I really like mixing in supernatural elements with little explanation. Honestly, I wish it got even weirder by the end. Just like a full collapse into surreal. But honestly, due to my sick brain and it having been a long December, I don't have much else to say. Oh, except I do love the cinematography. This movie looks gorgeous. Anyway, worst of the month would have to go to Cuckoo, which oddly has probably my favorite horror movie scene of the year, but sadly the third act of this movie just causes everything to fall apart and make it feel dumb. But luckily, I watched something worse, called Two Guns, a buddy cop movie starring Mark Wahlberg and Denzel Washington, and I just have to ask, was Wahlberg ever likable? Denzel Washington is one of those actors who just has insane charisma, could probably make reading a phone book interesting, but Wahlberg, any scene he is in, is just a black hole of charm. This movie becomes so annoying and unlikable that the action is average at best. Just a general bargain bin action flick. Like, any scene with just Denzel works fine. Works great. He's charming, you follow along with what he's saying, cool. But if Mark Wahlberg is there with him, it is no longer a fun scene. It is just annoying and terribly written. And that's the end of the script. That's my best and worst of the year of first time watches. This was supposed to come out in January, but as I said, I was sick at the beginning of January. I had maybe 5 days when I wasn't sick in the middle, and then I got sick again. So now it's literally February 1st. I've already started writing the next one of these and making my list for 2025. But here we are at the end. If the mic quality sounds worse than, like, say, episodes of Cinema Roulette, I lost the plug for my good microphone. I'm using an old blue Snowball. I don't have any plans to change how this is. I like this being simple, podcast sort of thing. But if people like it enough, give ideas in the comments. Maybe I'll do something more with it next year. Assuming we all live that long. Honestly, you know what I need? Because I do want to make videos again. I do have one video. It's been in production for like 3 fucking years. I keep changing things about it. What I just need is an editor, because I hate dealing with myself. So yeah, maybe next video, hopefully before April. I'll have an editor. They can help out. And it will be good. So I hope you kind of enjoyed this, or at least enjoyed it as good background noise while you're doing something else. I hope you all are safe. Try to have a decent year. Watch some new movies. Hopefully they're good. I don't know how to end things. Ending things is hard. You can just keep talking until everything is cut off.